In the shadow of scientific ambition, humanity's desire to conquer death has birthed horrors beyond comprehension. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein warned of the perils of playing God, yet the urge persists. This tale, set in the desolate moors of northern England in 2025, follows Dr. Eliza Varnum, a brilliant but haunted geneticist obsessed with reviving the dead. Her secluded laboratory, a decaying manor surrounded by fog-choked hills, becomes the stage for a chilling descent into madness. As Eliza's creation, a patchwork of stolen flesh and forbidden science, awakens, it unravels a nightmare of betrayal, isolation, and unrelenting dread. This is a story of hubris, where the line between creator and monster blurs, and the cost of defying nature is paid in blood. The wind howled across Blackthorn Moor, rattling the frost-crusted windows of Varnum Manor. Dr. Eliza Varnum stood in her subterranean laboratory, its stone walls slick with dampness. The air reeked of antiseptic and decay. Her hands trembled as she stitched the final suture into the lifeless form on the operating table. A grotesque mosaic of limbs and organs harvested from morgues and unmarked graves. Eliza's obsession began after her brother, Thomas, died in a car accident 5 years prior. Grief had driven her to master genetic engineering, splicing DNA to restore life. Tonight, her work would culminate. The machine hummed, its wires snaking into the body. Lightning cracked outside, mirroring the storm in her heart. As she activated the device, the corpse's fingers twitched. Eliza's breath caught. Had she succeeded, or unleashed something unholy? The manor's shadows seemed to pulse, whispering warnings she ignored. The creature's eyes snapped open, yellow and clouded, like tarnished coins. It lurched upright, stitches splitting as it groaned, a sound that clawed at Eliza's sanity. She stumbled back, knocking over a tray of scalpels. The manor's lights flickered, plunging the lab into darkness. Only the creature's ragged breathing filled the void. When the lights returned, it was gone. Panic seized her. She searched the manor's labyrinthine halls, her footsteps echoing against portraits of her ancestors, their painted eyes accusing. A creak came from the attic. Climbing the rotting stairs, Eliza found the creature crouched among cobwebs, staring at its own reflection in a cracked mirror. "What am I?" it rasped, its voice a chilling blend of human and inhuman. Eliza's triumph soured into dread. She had created life, but at what cost? Eliza named it Adam, a nod to the first man, though it was no man. Adam's patchwork body moved with unnatural grace, its mismatched limbs jerking in eerie rhythm. It followed her, silent but watchful, its gaze piercing her soul. The manor's isolation amplified her unease. The nearest village was miles away, shrouded in perpetual mist. Eliza taught Adam to speak, drawing from stolen memories embedded in his brain tissue. He absorbed knowledge with terrifying speed, but grew restless, questioning his existence. "Why do I feel pain?" he asked, clutching his scarred chest. Eliza lied, claiming it was temporary. At night, she heard him roaming the manor, muttering in voices not his own, fragments of the dead whose parts composed him. The moor's winds carried faint screams, or so she thought. Her dreams filled with visions of Adam tearing her apart, stitch by stitch. Rumors reached the village of Blackthorn. Strange lights in the manor, unearthly moans carried on the wind. Eliza, desperate for supplies, ventured into the village, her gaunt face drawing stares. The locals, steeped in folklore, whispered of curses tied to the Varnum family. An old woman, Agnes, grabbed Eliza's arm, her eyes wild. "You've woken the Moor's wrath," she hissed. Eliza dismissed it, but unease gnawed at her. Returning home, she found Adam staring through a window at the distant village, his expression unreadable. "They fear me," he said, his voice laced with sorrow. Or was it rage? That night, a sheep was found slaughtered on the moor, its body arranged in a grotesque spiral. The villagers blamed a beast. Eliza's heart pounded as she locked the manor's doors, wondering if the beast was already inside. Adam's questions grew darker. "Who were they? The ones you took to make me?" he demanded, his voice trembling with anguish. Eliza deflected, but his anger flared. He smashed a table, his strength terrifying. The manor felt alive with malice, its walls creaking as if echoing Adam's torment. Eliza's experiments faltered. Her notes were smeared with blood she couldn't explain. She found Adam in the library, poring over her journals, his eyes blazing. "You stole their lives for me," he accused. Guilt choked her. She had robbed graves, bribed coroners, all for her brother's memory. Now, Adam's existence mocked her. That night, she woke to footsteps circling her bed. A shadow loomed, then vanished. The Overlook's curse. In the shadow of the Colorado Rockies, the Overlook Hotel stood as a decaying monument to grandeur and dread. Built in the early 1900s, its opulent halls once hosted the elite, but whispers of tragedy clung to its walls like frost. Guests vanished, staff spoke of strange noises, and the hotel's ledger bore names that seemed to repeat across decades. By 1975, the Overlook was a relic, open only in summer, its winter isolation too perilous for visitors. Yet it drew those desperate or foolish enough to answer its call. The Thompson family, Mark, Laura, and their 8-year-old son Ethan, arrived in October seeking refuge. Mark, a struggling writer and recovering alcoholic, accepted the caretaker's job to escape his demons and rebuild his family. Laura, weary from years of Mark's volatility, hoped the solitude would mend their fractured bond. Ethan, sensitive and imaginative, felt the hotel's pull before they crossed its threshold. He saw things, flashes of faces in mirrors, shadows that moved against the light. The Overlook wasn't just a building, it was alive, hungry, and waiting. Inspired by Stephen King's The Shining, this story weaves a new tale of horror within the Overlook's cursed walls. The hotel's malevolent spirit preys on the Thompsons' vulnerabilities, twisting their minds and testing their will to survive. Across 10 sections, each approximately 400 words, the narrative explores the elements of horror, an oppressive atmosphere, vulnerable characters, creeping tension, eerie sounds, unsettling visuals, universal fears, a mysterious plot, cultural symbolism, shock, and psychological torment. The story culminates in a battle against the hotel's relentless evil, leaving readers questioning what is real and who can be saved. As the Thompsons settle into their winter prison, the Overlook awakens. Its halls hum with memories of blood and betrayal, and its rooms whisper promises of power and destruction. Mark's sobriety falters, Laura's hope fades, and Ethan's visions grow darker. The hotel doesn't just want to scare them, it wants to claim them. This is a story of isolation, madness, and the thin line between love and ruin. Welcome to the Overlook, where the past never dies, and the future is a scream in the dark. The Thompsons' station wagon rattled up the winding road, the Rockies looming like silent judges. Mark gripped the wheel, his knuckles white, muttering about a fresh start. Laura stared out the window, the hotel's silhouette emerging through the pines, a sprawling, snow-dusted castle that felt both majestic and wrong. Ethan, in the back seat, clutched his sketchbook, drawing jagged lines he couldn't explain. "It's watching us," he whispered, but his parents didn't hear. The caretaker's quarters were cozy but cold, the air heavy with the scent of old wood and something metallic. The hotel manager, Mr. Ullman, gave a hurried tour, his smile too tight. He spoke of the Overlook's history, galas, presidents, a 1920s murder-suicide in room 217, but avoided Ethan's wide, knowing eyes. "Boiler's tricky," Ullman warned. "Keep it steady, or the whole place could blow." Mark nodded, distracted, already imagining his novel's opening lines. That night, the family unpacked in silence. Laura arranged Ethan's toys, hoping routine would ground them. Mark found a bottle of whiskey in a cabinet, left by some long-gone caretaker. He stared at it, heart pounding, then shoved it into a drawer. Ethan sat by the window, sketching the hedge maze outside. His pencil scratched out shapes, faces with hollow eyes, hands reaching from the snow. "They're already here," he said, voice small. Laura knelt beside him, brushing his hair. "It's just a hotel, sweetie." But the Overlook disagreed. As midnight struck, the walls creaked, not with settling wood, but with intent. In the ballroom, a chandelier swayed, though no wind stirred. Footsteps echoed in the empty gold room, too heavy for human feet. Ethan woke, heart racing, and saw a shadow pass under his door. A woman's silhouette, her head tilted at an impossible angle. He hid under his blanket, whispering, "Go away." The shadow paused, then retreated, but the air grew colder. By morning, the family felt the weight of the place. Mark dismissed the noises as old pipes. Laura noticed scratches on the walls, too high for Ethan to reach. Ethan said nothing, but his sketchbook filled with horrors only he could see. The Overlook was waking, and the Thompsons were its prey. A week passed, and the Overlook's charm frayed. Snow piled high, sealing the Thompsons in. Mark spent hours in the basement, wrestling with the boiler's hissing valves, his temper flaring at its stubbornness. Laura cooked meals in the vast kitchen, but the clatter of pots couldn't drown out the faint giggles she heard from the vents. Ethan roamed the halls, drawn to locked doors that rattled as he passed. The hotel's history seeped into their dreams. Mark woke sweating. Visions of a man in a tuxedo swinging an axe. Laura dreamt of a woman in a white dress, her face a rotting mask, beckoning from room 217. Ethan's nightmares were vivid. Children in old-fashioned clothes, their eyes black, chanting his name in the hedge maze. He told Laura, but she hugged him, saying, "Just dreams, Ethan." Mark scoffed. "Kids got an imagination like mine." One afternoon, Ethan found the gold room unlocked. Inside, dusty mirrors reflected a bar stocked with bottles that gleamed despite the gloom. He heard a voice, low, male, smooth. "You're a special, Ethan. You shine." He ran, heart pounding, and told Laura. She checked the room, finding it locked, the bar empty. "You're tired, sweetie," she said, but her hands trembled. That night, Mark found the whiskey bottle again. He poured a glass, promising just one. The radio crackled, playing big band music from nowhere. He laughed it off, but the glass felt heavier, the liquor burning with a strange sweetness. Laura, reading in bed, heard a woman's voice whisper, "He's slipping." She bolted upright, alone. The voice came again from the mirror. She covered it with a sheet, heart racing. Ethan drew in his sketchbook. The woman from his nightmare, her dress stained red. He heard scratching from the closet. Opening it, he found nothing but a faint smell of decay. The hotel was toying with them, testing their cracks. Mark drank more, Laura doubted her sanity, and Ethan's fear grew. The Overlook's whispers were no longer subtle. They were commands. As snow buried the world outside, the hotel's grip tightened, promising secrets and horrors to those who listened. The Thompsons were unraveling, and the Overlook was only beginning. The hedge maze behind the Overlook became Ethan's obsession. Its snow-laden paths twisted into darkness, calling him like a siren. One morning, against Laura's warnings, he slipped outside, his boots crunching in the frost. The maze's walls loomed, their green needles sharp with ice. Ethan felt eyes on him, not from above, but within the hedges. He clutched his sketchbook, sketching the maze's turns, but his lines formed faces. Children, mouths open in silent screams. Inside, Laura noticed Ethan's absence and panicked. She searched the hotel, calling his name, her voice echoing in the empty ballroom. Mirrors reflected her frantic face, but something else flickered. A shadow with too many limbs. She ran to Mark, who was in the basement cursing the boiler. "Ethan's gone," she screamed. Mark, hungover, snapped. "He's fine, Laura." "Stop hovering." But her fear pierced his haze, and they rushed to the maze. Ethan, deep within, heard whispers, his name, over and over, from voices young and old. The air grew heavy, the snow falling in thick curtains. He turned a corner and froze. Before him stood the children from his dreams, their clothes tattered, their faces pale. "Play with us, Ethan," they said, hands reaching. He screamed, dropping his sketchbook, and ran. The maze seemed to shift, paths closing behind him. Laura and Mark entered the maze, shouting for Ethan. The wind howled, carrying faint giggles. Laura saw something move in the hedges, a figure, tall and wrong, its head jerking. She grabbed Mark's arm, but he shook her off, muttering, "It's nothing." Then they heard Ethan scream. They ran, the maze twisting, the cold biting their lungs. Shadows danced in the snow, too fast to follow. Ethan stumbled into a clearing, the children gone, but the air pulsed with malice. He saw his sketchbook, pages open to a drawing he didn't make. His family, throats slashed, standing in the maze. Laura and Mark found him there, trembling. Laura hugged him, sobbing, but Mark stared at the drawing, his face pale. The maze let them leave, but its shadows followed. The Overlook was no longer content to whisper, it was hunting. The boiler became Mark's prison. Its iron bulk dominated the basement, pipes groaning like a living thing. He spent hours tending it, sweat-soaked, the heat blurring his vision. The Overlook's influence grew stronger there, the air thick with a voice only he heard, a man's, deep and mocking. "You're weak, Mark," it said. "Drink, break." The whiskey bottle was always in his pocket now, half empty. Laura noticed Mark's distance. He snapped at her questions, his eyes bloodshot. She focused on Ethan, who refused to leave their quarters. His sketches now frantic scribbles of doors and eyes. One night, Laura heard a rhythmic thud from the basement. Not mechanical, but organic, like a heartbeat. She crept down, finding Mark staring at the boiler, muttering. "It's alive," he said, not seeing her. She backed away, fear coiling in her gut. Ethan woke to scratching at his window. Outside, the snow swirled, forming shapes, faces, hands pressing against the glass. He ran to Laura, who held him, whispering, "It's just the wind." But the hotel's pulse was undeniable. The lights flickered, casting shadows that moved independently. Laura found an old hotel ledger in a drawer, its pages listing names that matched Ethan's drawings, guests who vanished decades ago. Mark's nights grew stranger. The boiler room filled with laughter, glasses clinking, though he was alone. He saw figures in the pipe's steam, a woman in a red dress, a man with an axe. They urged him to join the party. One night, he found a mallet by the boiler, its handle warm. The voice whispered, "Use it." He gripped it, heart racing, then dropped it, fleeing upstairs. But the mallet was in his hand again the next night. Laura confronted Mark, begging him to leave. "The hotel's doing this," she said. He laughed, bitter. "It's just a job, Laura." But his hand shook, and the boiler's thud echoed in his skull. Ethan drew the boiler, its pipes twisting into claws. The Overlook was no longer subtle. It was feeding on Mark's rage, Laura's fear, and Ethan's sight. The basement was its heart, and Mark was its keeper, teetering on the edge of something unspeakable. Room 217 was forbidden, its door locked, but it called to Ethan. One gray afternoon, while Laura napped and Mark wrestled the boiler, Ethan found the key on a hook in the lobby, glinting as if placed for him. The hallway to 217 was dim, the air thick with a sweet, rotting smell. He turned the key, heart pounding, and stepped inside. The room was frozen in time. A cloth foot tub, a cracked mirror, a bed with sagging sheets. Ethan felt watched. The mirror showed not his reflection but a woman, pale, bloated, her eyes milky. She smiled, teeth black, and the room grew cold. Ethan backed away, but the door slammed shut. The woman's voice rasped, "Stay, shiny boy." He screamed, pounding the door, but the sound died in the air. Laura woke, sensing Ethan's absence. She searched, calling his name, her panic rising. The ledger's entries haunted her. Room 217, where a guest drowned in 1922, her body found days later. Laura found the key missing and ran to 217, the hallway stretching impossibly long. She heard Ethan's cries and forced the door open. He was curled on the floor, sobbing, the room empty but heavy. Ethan babbled about the woman, her hands on his face. Laura carried him out, her skin crawling. The door locked itself behind them. That night, Laura saw bruises on Ethan's arms, finger marks too large for a child's. She confronted Mark, who was drunk, his eyes wild. "You're both crazy," he slurred, but he avoided 217's hallway. The room wasn't done. At midnight, the tub's faucet dripped, though no pipes ran to it. Footsteps paced the floor, wet and deliberate. Ethan drew the woman, her body swollen, water spilling from her mouth. Laura found the ledger's final page. Room 217. She never leaves. The Overlook was using the room to break them, its ghost a lure for Ethan's shine. Laura vowed to protect him, but Mark's laughter echoed from the basement, and the hotel's shadows grew bolder. Room 217 was a wound, bleeding horror, and the Thompsons were trapped in its pulse. The gold room glittered with ghosts. Its chandeliers cast fractured light, and its bar, long dry, brimmed with spectral bottles. Mark stumbled in one night, drawn by music. Big band, loud and wrong. The room was alive, filled with figures in tuxedos and gowns, their faces blurred, laughing. A man in a dog mask poured Mark a drink, his voice familiar. "To the Overlook," he toasted. Mark drank, the liquor burning like fire. Laura noticed Mark's absences, his breath reeking of whiskey. She followed him one night, peering into the gold room. She saw only Mark, alone, talking to the air, but the mirrors showed a crowd, their eyes on her. She fled, heart racing, and locked herself in their quarters. Ethan, awake, whispered, "They're dancing, Mom. They want us to join." His sketchbook showed the gold room, figures with animal masks, hands reaching for him. Mark's nights in the gold room grew frequent. The dog-masked man, calling himself Lloyd, told stories of the hotel's glory. Parties, murders, betrayals. "You're part of it now," Lloyd said. Mark saw Laura in the crowd, her face twisted, accusing. He swung at her, but she vanished, and the crowd laughed. The mallet appeared in his hand, heavy, promising. Laura found Ethan drawing Lloyd, his mask a snarling dog. She tore the page, desperate to break the hotel's hold. The radio blared static, then a woman's voice. "He's ours now." Laura smashed it, but the voice lingered. She searched for Mark, finding him in the gold room, unconscious, the air thick with perfume and decay. She dragged him to their quarters, but his eyes opened, not his own. "You can't leave," he whispered. The gold room's masquerade was the Overlook's heart, a trap for Mark's weakness. Its ghosts weren't just memories. They were the hotel's will, bending him to its purpose. Laura clung to Ethan, but the music followed, and the mirrors showed masked faces watching. The Thompsons were no longer guests. They were players in a dance that never ended, and the gold room was its stage, glittering with promises of ruin. The Overlook's grip tightened, cracking the Thompsons' resolve. Mark's sobriety was gone, his days a blur of whiskey and the gold room's whispers. He screamed at Laura, accusing her of trapping him here. His hand shook, clutching the mallet, its weight a comfort. Laura saw the change. His eyes weren't his anymore. She hid the mallet, but it reappeared in his coat. Laura's hope faded. The ledger's names haunted her, their fates mirroring hers. She heard Ethan's name in the walls, whispered by voices young and old. One night, she found Ethan sleepwalking to room 217, his eyes blank. She pulled him back, but he woke screaming, "They're inside me!" His sketches showed the family dead, the hotel alive, its windows bleeding. Ethan's shine was the hotel's prize. He saw the Overlook's past, murders in the ballroom, a chef burned in the kitchen, children trapped in the maze. The ghosts spoke to him, promising power if he joined them. He resisted, but his strength waned. The woman from 217 appeared in his dreams, her touch cold, pulling him toward her. Laura planned escape, but the snow was too deep, the radio dead. She found Mark in the basement, talking to the boiler, calling it she. He lunged at her, then stopped, confused, as if waking. "I'm sorry," he sobbed, but the hotel's voice roared in his head, drowning his will. Laura locked him in their quarters, but the door rattled, the lock bending. The Overlook was winning. Its halls pulsed with laughter. Mirrors showed the Thompsons' deaths, and the boiler's thud grew louder. Ethan drew the hotel, its walls flesh, its doors mouths. Laura held him, whispering, "We'll fight." But Mark's screams echoed, and the shadows moved closer. The hotel wasn't just a place. It was their judge, jury, and executioner, feeding on their fear and guilt. The breaking point was here, and the Overlook demanded its due, its hunger endless, its victory near. The Overlook declared war. At midnight, the lights died, plunging the hotel into darkness. The boiler's thud became a roar, shaking the walls. Laura grabbed Ethan, barricading their door with furniture. Mark was gone, his cot empty, the mallet missing. The hotel's laughter filled the air, a chorus of the damned. Ethan's shine burned bright, showing him the hotel's plan. The ghosts, Lloyd, the woman from 217, the maze children, hunted them, led by Mark, now the Overlook's puppet. Ethan saw his father in the gold room, eyes black, the mallet raised. "He's not Dad anymore," Ethan whispered. Laura nodded, tears falling, and gripped a kitchen knife. The halls came alive. Doors slammed, footsteps thundered, and mirrors shattered, glass raining. Laura and Ethan fled, the maze their only hope. The hotel fought back, carpets twisted, walls bled, and the air grew thick, choking. In the lobby, the woman from 217 waited, her body bloated, water pooling at her feet. Laura swung the knife, but the ghost vanished, laughing. In the maze, snow blinded them, the hedges shifting. Ethan's shine guided them, but the children's voices called, "Stay forever." Mark's silhouette appeared, the mallet gleaming. Laura shouted, "Mark, fight it!" He paused, trembling, then swung. Laura dodged, pulling Ethan deeper into the maze. The ghosts closed in, their forms solid, hands clawing. Ethan saw the boiler in his mind, its pressure spiking. "It's the heart," he said. Laura understood. They had to reach the basement. They doubled back, the maze letting them pass, as if the hotel wanted the final act there. Mark followed, his voice not his own, chanting, "Kill for the Overlook." The ghosts cheered, their faces in the snow. The hunt was the hotel's crescendo, its hunger unleashed. Laura and Ethan ran, their love their only weapon, but the Overlook's power was absolute. The basement door loomed, the boiler's roar deafening. Mark's footsteps were close, the mallet's shadow long. The night belonged to the hotel, and the Thompsons were its prey, their fate hanging on a thread of defiance. The basement was a furnace, the boiler a monstrous heart. Laura and Ethan burst in, the heat searing. The machine roared, its gauges red, pipes screaming. Ethan's shine showed the truth. The boiler was the Overlook's anchor, its rage and hunger bound to the iron. Destroy it, and the hotel might fall. Laura barred the door, but Mark's mallet pounded, wood splintering. "You can't escape," he roared, his voice layered with Lloyd's. Ethan pointed to the valves, his hand steady despite his fear. "Turn them all," he said. Laura hesitated. Ullman's warning echoed. An explosion could kill them. But the ghosts were closing in, their forms filling the basement's shadows. Laura twisted the valves, the boiler shrieking, pressure spiking. Ethan saw the ghosts falter, their faces twisting in rage. The woman from 217 lunged, her hands ice cold, but Ethan's shine burned, pushing her back. The maze children screamed, fading into steam. Laura worked faster, her hands blistering, the air choking with heat. Mark broke through, the mallet raised. Laura faced him, knife trembling. "Mark, please," she begged. His eyes flickered, a spark of himself. "Laura," he whispered, then roared, swinging. Ethan screamed, "Dad, stop!" The mallet froze midair, Mark trembling, fighting the hotel's will. The boiler's roar drowned all else, pipes bursting, steam scalding. Mark dropped the mallet, sobbing, and ran to the boiler, twisting the final valve. "Get out!" he yelled, his voice his own. Laura grabbed Ethan, running as the basement shook. The ghosts howled, their forms dissolving, the hotel's pulse faltering. Mark stayed, holding the valve, his face calm. "I love you," he mouthed, as the boiler exploded. The blast tore through the Overlook, fire consuming the basement, halls collapsing. Laura and Ethan stumbled into the snow, the maze burning behind them. The hotel screamed, its windows shattering, its spirit unraveling. The ghosts vanished, their hold broken. The Overlook was dying, its curse undone by Mark's sacrifice, Ethan's shine and Laura's will. The Rockies stood silent, the snow falling, as the hotel burned to ash. Dawn broke over the Rockies, the Overlook's ruins smoldering. Laura and Ethan huddled in the snow, rescued hours later by rangers alerted by the explosion. The hotel was gone, its secrets buried in ash. Laura held Ethan, his sketchbook lost in the fire, his shine dim but alive. They spoke little of the horror, their wounds too raw. In Denver, they rebuilt slowly. Laura found work, her strength returning, but nightmares lingered. Mark's face, the woman from 217. Ethan drew again, simple things, trees, skies, never faces. His shine faded, a mercy, but he felt the Overlook's echo, a whisper too faint to fear. The hotel was dead, its ghosts silenced, but its mark remained. The world moved on. The Overlook's story became a footnote, a tragedy of a boiler mishap. No one spoke of the ledger, the ghosts, or the maze's shifting paths. Laura and Ethan knew the truth, but kept it close, a bond forged in survival. They honored Mark's sacrifice in silence, his love the light that broke the hotel's hold. Yet, the Overlook's shadow lingered. In dreams, Laura saw the hedge maze, its paths endless. Ethan heard faint music, big band notes on the wind. They never returned to the Rockies, but the hotel's curse left a question. Had it truly died, or did it wait, patient, in another place, another time? The Thompsons carried its weight, their love and loss a shield against the dark. The Overlook's curse is a descent into horror, echoing Stephen King's The Shining while carving its own path. The Thompsons, Mark, Laura, and Ethan, face the Overlook Hotel's malevolent spirit, a force that feeds on fear, guilt, and hidden power. Each section builds the terror, from the oppressive atmosphere of the hotel's halls to the psychological torment of its ghosts. The story weaves horror's core elements: eerie settings, vulnerable characters, creeping tension, haunting sounds, disturbing visuals, universal fears, a mysterious plot, cultural echoes of cursed places, shocking twists, and the mind's unraveling under stress. The Overlook is more than a haunted hotel. It's a mirror reflecting the Thompsons' flaws. Mark's addiction, Laura's fading hope, and Ethan's shine become weapons for the hotel's ghosts. Lloyd, the woman from 217, the maze children, the boiler, pulsing like a heart, anchors the horror, its explosion a cathartic release. Mark's sacrifice, Ethan's defiance, and Laura's love defeat the curse, but the ambiguous aftermath leaves readers unsettled. Is the Overlook truly gone, or does its evil linger, waiting for new prey? This story captures horror's power to unsettle and provoke. The Rockies' isolation, the hotel's decadent decay, and the ghost's relentless hunt create a visceral atmosphere. Sounds, creaking walls, dripping faucets, big band music amplify dread, while visuals like bloated specters and bleeding walls shock. Themes of addiction, betrayal, and survival resonate, grounded in the cultural archetype of the haunted hotel, a place where the past traps the present. The Thompsons' journey is a testament to love's strength and fragility. Mark's fall and redemption, Laura's resilience, and Ethan's shine mirror the human struggle against inner and outer demons. The open-ended conclusion, with whispers of the hotel's survival, honors horror's tradition of lingering unease. Readers are left questioning their own vulnerabilities, the places they fear, and the shadows that follow. The Overlook's curse is a warning. Some doors, once opened, never close. Its horrors linger in the mind, a reminder that evil doesn't die, it waits. For Laura and Ethan, survival is victory, but the cost is eternal vigilance. The Overlook may burn, but